do we do? Okay, there's a lot of talk. Even yesterday, a lot of people were interested to know what exactly we're doing and what Dharma does. So to simply put it, what we do is we look at what makes a person the way he or she is. As simple as that. Okay. Now, first thing, what we see is you have your genes. Everyone has certain genes that they inherit from their parents, right? Then you have your environment, your parents, your siblings, the friends that you have in school, your teachers, your mentors. Everyone plays a very important role in shaping your personality, okay? And the third one that you can see there is the way you think, your mind, your thought process, like what I made you do the activity right now. So all of these three things play a very important role in shaping an individual's personality, okay? And what we as Dharma Life Sciences as a company, what we do is we look at different personality traits, okay? Now as we put up a few examples over there, empathy, trust, sensitivity, nervousness, we have almost a list of 25 traits that we've already worked on. I've just put a few examples over there. So what you will see is that all of these traits play a very important role in an individual's life, okay? Let's take the example of empathy. Now empathy is something where you're able to understand what's going through another person's mind, okay? Now if you look at empathy, if it's balanced, which means I have enough amount of empathy, I'm able to function very well in my surroundings. The moment I have low empathy, which is on one extreme, I cannot understand what people are saying, I do not relate to them, and it affects my interpersonal relationships. On the other hand, if I have extreme empathy, extremely empathetic, that means suppose I'm a manager and someone comes to me and says, okay, look, I'm not feeling well, I need to go home soon. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so empathetic, it's okay, go. So what I'm doing is I'm not giving importance to what is required at that point, and I'm just willing to let go and listen to what the other person has to say all the time. So either way, extremely low empathy or extremely high empathy is considered an unbalanced trait. So what we as Dharma Life Science, what we do is we try and bring any trait to the center. Because each trait, like I said, is important. So we look at how we can balance that trait. Because balanced empathy is always nice. Sometimes you listen to what another person is saying. Sometimes you give yourself more importance than another person. Okay? Right. So what are trait skills? As the name suggests, these are nothing but skills which are used to balance traits or balance personality traits. Now what we do is these personality traits, when we aim to balance them, it plays an important role in an individual's life. It plays an important role in an organization. Now obviously organization is made up of a complex set of employees. Each employee has their own set of behaving, their own set of thinking. Now if you're able to balance it in each and every individual, the productivity in an organization also as a whole will improve. And if you look at society, society is also made up of individuals itself. So if all of us can improve on our individual personality traits, as a whole the society will also develop. Okay?
There are few guidelines and rules which I've developed for myself while making these games. So based on our research, the first step when we try to design these games is trigger the trait. So we have this intention to put the player in a situation which will purposely trigger his trait. So if there are people who have programming background, they'll know if you want to fix a bug, you need to find and replicate the bug. Only then you can know where the issue occurs from and you can find a solution for it. Within the similar principle, we put the player in a situation which will trigger his trait. Like the game I told you on the anxiety, the nervousness, and we put Trevor in a situation where he has to do public speaking and he has to talk to people on his first day. That will put him in a mind where we can try to rewire him. Second is putting him an objective, and the objective is to reach that balanced trait in that particular scenario. So in that example, we want Trevor to know and realize that it might not be a good way, but if there were more positive facts than the negative facts, he would realize that I have nothing to fear of, I can go and speak freely. So this is what we put the player on, to give him a clear instruction of reaching that balanced state. Now how to do that is using a rewiring gameplay. As I mentioned, all the games are based on those rewiring statements. So whenever we try to make the gameplay for the game, we try to put any part having a rewiring statements. These gameplay are derived from those statements. And at the end, you can see they will tell the player difference at the end. You will show them results using the game. The game itself shows some scores, some results, and even the mentors while having a session, you can tell them that you have improved results. So before the guy who was playing the game was answering incorrectly for the first 1 week. Then after 2 weeks, after playing through the games, going through the sessions, we can easily see that he has attained some difference. And when the user can see some progress in himself, and if actually, I ask you guys, if you can feel that you have become a little less nervous, a little less angry, more confident in life, by in just 2-3 weeks, it motivates you.
Right. So role of repetition, as the name goes. I'm sure in, when you guys were small, your teachers will always be like, say A, B, C, D, say A, B, C, D, say A to Z, like so many times. You go home, your mom is like, you also say A to Z, say A to Z. This kind of so much repetition has made A to Z sit in your mind forever. If I'm going to just ask anyone to stand up and tell me A to Z, I'm sure you're able to do that, right? Because you've repeated so many number of times that you don't have to put an effort to think about it. On the other hand, if I'm going to ask you guys to tell me Z to A, how many of y'all are able to do that? Quickly. Anyone? Right, so okay, yeah, that kind of reinforces the fact because you haven't really repeated that, you haven't really thought about it that way. So the moment I ask you to say Z to A quickly, you're not able to do it because you've always learned it A to Z. Because you've repeated it so many times. So the whole point of repetition is if you have to balance a trait, you need to repeat a certain experience multiple times. Social fear, when I told you, you need to repeat public speaking in front of few people, more people, a lot of times before you get comfortable with it. So even the games that we say, it's not like you can play the game once and your trait is going to be balanced. No, that's not what we're saying. You need to play the game again and again. You need to reflect on it again and again. You need to keep doing experiences which are not used to going through. Do it again and again, and then you're going to get more confident with that particular trait that you have. That's when the role of repetition becomes very important. Because then it gets hardwired into your brain. Then you don't need to put an effort. For example, take driving. The first time you started learning how to drive, I'm sure you had to think, oh my god, the clutch, the gear, someone's coming, I need to put a brake, okay fine, so many things to do. But once you've driven for a long period of time, you can think about something else. Oh, I'm going for a party, which dress should I wear? At the same time, you're able to drive as well. Because now you've repeated it so many times that it's got stuck in your brain.
You remember of these games, you remember of the actions you took, you remember of the choices you made in those situations, that you'll try to enforce that. And one more thing I would like to add, all the situations in our game are not fictional. They're all based on real life. Whatever you go through is something you can go through and you face any day. First day at work, having an interview, speaking in front of developers, anything, all this is a very realistic basis. And we are not responsible for whatever you do. We are just providing you the tools to balance yourself. Whatever progress and whatever actions you do are up to you. Whatever difference you obtain is you obtained. We have done nothing, just giving you the tools. So big, thank you. So now, how do we track the progression in our games? So all the activities are automatically tracked and logged by the app. But we also have mentors or psychologists who are also keeping a track of how you do and what you do. So with social fear, would pay attention to the faces, but someone with perfectionism would not pay attention to faces. He just wants to get his work done. So this way, this kind of game with social fear becomes very easy for him. If you ask him to just track the happy face or the funny face, he says, okay, this is the funny guy, it's no big deal. The social fear guy will put attention to all the faces on the screen and then he'll think, okay, this is funny, no, this looks much more funnier. So there he goes through the dilemma. But the perfectionist guy will not go through the dilemma. So this is where the difference is there.
So the games part of it that we explain is just one component of what we do or one component of balancing a personality trait. So initially, to start off with, how do we get this? Is just a quick overview of how exactly the program goes about as a whole. So the first thing is, how do we get interest in an audience? Suppose you guys are an audience and you must be wondering what are traits, how do we balance it, and why should I even work on it? That's when we conduct a workshop. Now during the workshop, we conduct a few activities where each individual participates and they get a sort of an insight. Okay, this is maybe some trait that I need to work on. Now the workshop also motivates you and gives you an insight of why you need to work on traits and how they influence you in your work life and in your personal life. Now once that interest is created in an audience, we ask for volunteers. Now the reason is sometimes as a manager, I might be like, okay, this guy is not performing well, I want him to go through the trait skills management program. But that doesn't work. Because unless the motivation comes from within me to balance something in myself, it's not going to be as effective as someone else forcing me to go through the program. That's why we conduct a workshop and then we ask for volunteers. Then how many of you actually want to come up and balance a particular trait that you think you want to work on? Once that's done, we go to the discovery part. So I'm sure discovery, you guys must be thinking, oh, which trait should I work on? Which trait do I think I lack or which one do I want to balance? That's when the mentors play an important role. Mentors are nothing but, individuals who have a background in psychology and they're trained in, they're psychologists. So they have a one-on-one interaction with the client or with the user, and they help in figuring out what trait the person lacks or what trait they need to work on based on their past experiences, based on whatever they share with the psychologist. Now, along with the psychologist, we also have psychometric tests. I'm not sure how many of you all are aware of it, but anyway, these are basically assessments that we use to figure out what trait the individual needs to work on. So once the trait is decided, then we move on to balancing the part. So as Archit mentioned, brain games are obviously one part of it, which is basically why this whole conference is happening. And then the other part of it, we also have something known as physical, mind and real world actions. Physical actions, as the name suggests, is something to do with your bodily activity. So we also suggest things like yoga or things like exercise and how that plays an important role in balancing a trait, say depression. So there are so many research studies which support that yoga or meditation play an important role in making you more happy and making you more joyful. Then you also have something known as mind actions. This is more to do with the way you think. So have you guys heard of positive affirmations? People who wake up early in the morning and who say positive things to themselves. So those are the kind of statements that the app also suggests depending on what trait you have. So if you have social fear, for example, the app is going to suggest things like, it's okay, no problem, you can interact and people will like you. So something like that, when you keep telling it to yourself, you are more confident when interacting and not just simply getting nervous because of it. And the last part is real world. So I'm sure everyone, the main question that a lot of people ask is, okay, you can play games, but how sure are you it's going to apply in real life? So you can do exercise, you can do yoga, you can play games, but how do I know that my trait is actually improving? That's when the app also has another section called as real world actions. So as the name suggests, these are actions that you have to carry out in your real world. So to give you an example, let's take the example of social fear. Can people just raise their hands and just tell me how many of you are not very comfortable talking in front of a gathering like this? Thank you for being honest. Okay, so I'm sure some of you might not be comfortable giving a speech like this or talking in front of people. So what we do in the real world action section, imagine if I suddenly asked one of you who raised your hands to come here and speak something. You're obviously going to be nervous. So as a psychologist, that's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually expose you to that situation. Now how do I do that? What I'm going to do is take this person X. I'm going to be like, okay, why don't you go talk to your close set of friends and why don't you give them a speech? Or why don't you share an experience that you had lately with your close set of friends? Now once I'm comfortable with that, I'm going to tell them, go talk to a set of mutual friends. Because obviously mutual friends create more amount of anxiety than say your own friend, right? So then I'll be like, go and give a presentation or just go share an experience with mutual friends. Now once the person keeps on doing that and they realize, okay, it's not that scary, I think I can handle it. Okay, good. So then I'll put you to the next level, which is say going and talking to your colleagues or giving more of a formal talk in front of say 3-4 colleagues. That's about it. Now once I do that around 5-6 times and I get comfortable with that, that's when I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to bring my boss now. He's also going to be seated and now you have to talk in front of the boss as well. I do that say around 5-6 times and slowly I realize, okay, it's not that scary, I think I can handle it. Now once I'm done with my boss and my colleagues, then the next stage would be say giving a presentation in front of say 15 people or 10 people. And once I'm comfortable with that, then it comes to giving a presentation like this. So it's basically just designed in a way to make the person comfortable slowly and not just directly tell them to give a presentation in front of 50 people because that's not easy for everyone to do. Right? So that's what comes under real world actions. So all of these actions put together help in balancing a trait and not just one particular thing like games or real world. Everything together helps in balancing whatever traits. Yeah.
How do you differentiate between brain action and mind action?
Right. So brain action is basically designed by neuroscientists where they look at how games, the games that we just spoke about, how do they play an important role in making you think in a way that you're not used to thinking. But the mind actions on the other hand are more psychological, more reflective, more thought process oriented and not just games. So like I mentioned, positive affirmations for example. Or take the example of role play. I'm sure role play many of you would have heard of. And I'm sure it works between spouses a lot. I don't know how many of you are married and how many of you have tried it. But basically, if you're married, what you can do is a very quick exercise. You tell him for one particular hour. Okay, 1 day is too much. So for 1 hour, pretend like I'm the husband and my spouse is the wife. And let's do our chores accordingly. Let's talk to each other accordingly. Now what happens is, I am going to realize
if I was not taking my husband's phone and I get a call, so then I realize, okay, this person has so much running on their mind. On the other hand, my spouse or my husband will realize, okay, this girl cooks a lot, she does so much, she has to manage the children, she has to do this. So this simple role play will help you understand how the other person thinks and how their life goes about. Because it's very easy for a husband to come back home and be like, look, I had a very tiring day and you're just sitting and chilling at home. But once you're at home and once you carry out what the wife does, only then you're going to understand that even she doesn't have an easy role. So something like a role play also would come under the mind action section, where actually reflecting and thinking about another person, about yourself, and then understanding how to balance a particular trait. So the example of role play that I gave you is more to do with empathy. So that action is there for empathy, where you can be empathetic towards your spouse, your children, your family, or whoever it could be.
So mind actions are more about self-evaluation, where real-world actions, you can consider them a very basic level of augmented reality.